Hi, my name is Lydia Kostopoulos, and I'm a strategy and emerging technologies advisor with a deep passion for body data tracking and human performance. All in the pursuit of feeling great and having as much energy as possible to pursue the things that fill me with joy and purpose. This interview series is about discovering how others have created and are curating their personal healthy aging protocol, one that aligns with their values and the person that they desire to be and become. I hope you find it to be of interest. Let's dive in. Hi, Helen. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I want to first start with introduce yourself, tell us about you and what you're up to.
Thank you so much for having me, Lydia. I am Hélène Guillaume, the founder and CEO of WildAI. So my background, I studied mathematics and financial risk. I was a quant in hedge fund and management consultant in AI. And in parallel of that, always been an athlete. I was competitively a rugby player, triathlete, ultramarathon runner, a lot of sports, and now I'm a passionate amateur surfer. And throughout my life in sports, being a woman is basically being the underdog, and it's pretty shitty. We are less fast, less strong, less interesting, not portrayed in medias, which is pretty insulting. It's like, oh, you try really, really hard, but you won't get anywhere anyways because you're just a woman, and it just sucks. And so I wasn't really happy with that status quo, and it really annoyed me. And so I tried to look for an answer, and this is why I created WildAI, which is trying to understand my body. Is it really shitty, or is there another story? The good news is there is another story. So what we're doing is research on the female body, which we translate into our app, helping women eat, exercise, and recover with the menstrual cycle if they have one, or hormone seeking if they don't have a cycle. And we have the flip side of that, which is the coach dashboard. So these two products are fueled by our API underneath. And now we open up our API to third parties. And it's really exciting because we signed our first letter of intent. We have a very big wearable company. So it's really the first potential client of using this underlying API. And we can now change old tech into femtech. That's us.
Well, for a disclaimer, I am a happy investor in your company.
Yeah.
And I love what you're doing. And I think what it's done, it's helped me better exercise with my body and my cycle. And it's made me more confident as I am looking to, exercise for my healthy aging plan, which brings me to your healthy aging plan. And I want to know what yours is about. But first, what even inspires you? So I know what inspired you to make WildAI to help you be able to better exercise in accordance with your body and your hormones. But what inspires you to have a healthy aging plan, be deliberate about your health outside of your, athletic abilities?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like the word biohacker is often coined for men, but I think women are actually the original biohackers. We are the people who look at herbal teas and Asian medicine and a lot of things like that because we feel a lot of things that are not right in our bodies, and the traditional medical world does not give us answers. And I love your podcast because it's so, first of all, it's very specific on this topic on longevity, which a lot of us are interested in, but you just put an umbrella and a place to talk about it. And for me, I think it came from the same place as many people. It's coming from a trigger and an issue. So all my life, I had stomach issues. I had really bad pain in my tummy all my life. I thought it was normal. If you always had pain since ever, it's basically a normal process. After eating, I would always feel pain. But I discovered maybe when I was 22 years old, and my mother always felt that something wasn't fully right with me. I'm shorter than my sisters. I was always quite pale. And so she was trying biohacking stuff on me. So stop tomatoes for a month, and basically we're just really trying to find stuff. I had a lot of allergies. But around my 22 years old, I did a test, and I was potentially intolerant to gluten. And I did this quite drastic process of eliminating all the foods. So the first month is only rice, the second month is rice and banana. So quite drastic. And I still had pain. So for me, it was well, it's not that. But after 6 months, my body got disintoxicated, and I discovered life with no pain. It was amazing. And I was wow, actually there is there is a way to live better and to feel better in my body. And because I had so much pain, I think all my life, I just was battling through, and I wanted to do as much and probably more things that many of my peers, because I had so many things to prove to myself. So I think that really is the origin of my interest in living well, because I knew what it was living not well, having pain every day. And then as I launched my company, I also had a pain in my stomach that was very consistent on the right side. And I did all the tests you can imagine. And then I would go to the doctor, and the doctor is like, everything's right, you don't have anything, you can go home. And then I would go home, and I'm like, oh, but I still have pain, so there is something. And then I remember this day where I was with my mom and my dad together at the doctor in Poland, and the doctor said, we don't know what you have, but we know you have something, and we will find what you have. And the day after, I woke up and I had no pain. So super psychosomatic, which obviously is very often the case, but I was really stressed. No one was finding what I had. And then suddenly I was so taken care of by my two parents and a doctor. And it clicked. And basically I felt like, okay, I'm doing this company, I love it, but I can't fuck up my health because of my stress. So I need to really behave in a different way. So I will live well, because I'm not creating this company to have an ulcer in a few years' time or cancer. So these are like a bit the triggers why I'm interested in living well. And also I love pushing my body to extremes. So I love testing things, and I love quantifying things. These are wearables. This is also the origin of my company, and I'm a data scientist, so I love data, and I love seeing things changing in my body with hard numbers that I can correlate with my subjective feelings, which I also do in WildAI, obviously.
I can relate.
And yeah, that's the origin.
Well, that's wonderful. So what I'm seeing is some common threads here around really wanting to live better and demanding that you do live better and persevering until you are better. And I think that's a key that I think many people who are actively creating their own healthy aging protocol that they have in common, where it's like, I want my life to be different and I refuse to accept anything less than great. So on that note, I'd love to hear more about like what you do. So I know you have a baby, you just became a mother. And so how are you now balancing or recalibrating your healthy aging plan around that? How are you doing with like the sleep and the food? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I think until having a baby, it's actually very convenient for us as adults, because we can pretty much decide our own fate in life. And I was really taking advantage of that. Waking up before 6 a.m. was for me like succeeding my day. And then we chose to have a baby, and we had a baby. And I realized that now I am not the sole decision maker of what is happening during my night. So we have a little baby. She's sleeping pretty well, but she still wakes up. And so we need to manage things around that. What we did do is both my partner and I are heavily impacted by lack of sleep, like many people. But for us, it's very clear. I'm not a very nice person. If I haven't slept, I'm snappy. And so we really wanted to put an emphasis on enabling us to be good people and functioning people. And so we've put a lot of thoughts and thinking and work and money behind that. So first of all, I took 6 weeks of maternity leave, which is this theory of the 40 days, which is also coming from Asian principles. And I loved it. And it was the first time of my life as a founder that I was taking more than 3 days off. And it was really important for me to give that time both to my body and to my baby and my family. And after that, like throughout the 6 weeks, and I wanted to get really ready to be back to work, we invested in a night nurse, which helped our baby understand that night equals sleep and no food. And she did pretty well for 7 months, and then it went downhill for 3 months. And now we were like trying to figure out how it works. But I think it's just a very common thread of parents, like the lack of sleep. But we try to put an emphasis on that. The other thing that we really try to do is I change a lot of my priorities. So doing sports every day for me was really important. But now I really want to spend time with her, cuddle her. And so I changed my morning. So I used to, as I was saying, wake up before 6, do sports, loving it. And then being fresh and ready to start working. And now I wake up with her. When she wakes up, I breastfeed her still. And I am in my bed writing for my day, preparing for my day, reading a book and spending very quality time with her. And then when a nanny arrives, I can give her the baby, but I already spent 1 to 2 hours with her exclusively. And that is quite magical. And then preparing my day is very important for me. So I prepare it in the evening, and in the morning somehow priorities have changed. And I eat breakfast and drink a lot of water. I try. So first thing in the morning, drink a lot of water while I'm still in bed with her. And then eating breakfast a few hours later. That's how I start.
So I also know that you have help with food. So it's really interesting because like the key pillars, exercise, it's the sleep, it's the food. And so with the sleep, you knew that wasn't something you wanted to compromise, and you brought in some help. And then with the food, the same thing. Tell me a little bit about how you've approached your food, and how you got help to make sure it was on point given your big schedule.
I think very interestingly, postpartum, I actually invested in that specifically as well. So we had a postpartum doula who was doing food for the mother when she gave birth, because we have a huge flip of hormones. So you have the pregnancy hormones, it changes it entirely for the birth hormones, which is a huge exercise. Like the whole muscles have to contract. So, and then once the baby's out, you have the recovery plus the breastfeeding, which I chose to do. So it's a huge change, and all the stomach, all the internal organs have been moved around and shaken. So it needs to resettle and take back its place while not dropping and having too much impact on the pelvic floor. So I brought in a postpartum doula who was doing day by day changing diets. So the very first days, it's things that are extremely nutritious but very easy to digest. So very heavy broths, and which were delicious. And then she was preparing some snacks for the night, which I was looking forward to when I was breastfeeding at night. And then day by day, there's a little bit more consistency and a little bit more solid food integrated. And then when I left my 6 weeks time of postpartum recovery, I mean, a woman 1 year later is still recovering, but we have a person at home who's cooking, and we try to have organic food, healthy food, which we don't always manage to. And at home, we try to, basically our rule is, if every day the basis is very healthy, it doesn't matter if sometimes we go out of line. I think what it isn't good for me is if every day I'm out of line. Yeah.
Consistency is key.
Yeah, but also I think in the biohacking world, it's all about, if you have to do that all the time. I think we are humans and we have peaks of interest and motivation in doing something, and then we lose it. And I think having rewards is important and good. At home we try to eat no salt in the cooking, but then salt when we eat. I need salt actually. Salt is the devil, but actually it's quite important. Including fats, we don't buy low fat yogurts. We don't buy all these lean products. We try to buy only products that are actual vegetables and actual meat and actual fish, and then we just cook it.
Like whole foods basically is what you're describing.
Yeah, real food, and we use fats, and we use olive oil, and we use butter, and we use all these things that I don't know, everyone says is terrible and horrible, but we use it because we just cook in a very healthy way, and then we add olive oil to bring taste and spices and fresh foods, and taste great.
So on that note, I know that you have a particular way of tracking your food, but tracking more than just your food. You've got this kind of method where it's like your spreadsheet of life, and you track how experiences have felt for you, whether it's a food experience or whether it's interaction with somebody. Tell me more about what this spreadsheet is all about, how you devised it, and how it works, and how it's helped you.
Yeah, so I started this spreadsheet, which is very simple. It's 3 columns, plus, minus, and next. on the x-axis, and then on the y, it's basically the date. And every day I try, it's not actually every day, but now I've had it for many, many years. And I put all the pluses of my day, and they actually end up being things that are very simple. For instance, this morning I went in the sea, so I felt the like cold water on my body, and I feel amazing. So I write that as my plus. And my next is go every day, 5 times a week, try to go 5 times a week to the sea. And on the nutrition is interesting because I think there is a lot of things that our bodies react well or don't react well, and it's definitely true for me. For instance, coffee is not working well for me, especially if I don't drink coffee with something. If I drink coffee with food, it actually works okay. And so I only know that because I've tracked things, and at the time of the day is important. Like if I have stomachache midway through the morning and I just had a coffee, probably it's related to that. If I've been sitting a lot actually during the day and I eat my dinner too late, I have a big stomachache as well. So like I know these things because I've tracked them. So this would be my minus. And then I can see when I look back, sometimes I look back and I see like, oh, it's actually been quite consistently the same thing. So I try to change my behavior to improve my life, basically. And things you were saying on relationships. So for instance, on the minus, often I would have, I spoke to that person, or before speaking to the person, I was quite stressed and it triggered in me, like, I don't know, my throat felt quite tense. And I can see that actually it's been the case for the past 6 months. And then I'm like, well, maybe it's time to cut out this relationship because it doesn't make sense. And I did cut out friendships or work relationships because thanks to my spreadsheet.
So your spreadsheet kind of serves as a way for you to become aware of the things in your life, food, people, or other experiences that work for you or don't work for you. And I really like that because it's a way of bringing more joy to your life on a daily basis. And speaking of more joy, there's a big part of your longevity kind of lifestyle that involves thinking about what brings you joy, what brings you fulfillment. So tell me more about your mindset aspect and what it entails and how you're going about it.
Yeah, I really like this, like all the research and theories around the blue zones, which is the zones where people live more than 100 years old. There is a big aspect on eating well, and eating well also includes, for instance, things that are nice like wine consumption, and which is, I think, eating well is enjoying it as well. And I was in Paris a few days ago in Pardon, and he was saying like, how come not more people are overweight, sorry. And the reason is like, no one is in the street with a huge drink full of milk. It's like people sit and they take time to eat. And actually, I think that's quite important. And then one aspect that is interesting in like living long is community and living with people and finding purpose and giving to people things that really uplift them. And I think that, you know, when you do something for someone and they feel great about it, it actually makes me feel great about it. But the nice thing is like, it actually makes me feel longer. So I try to seek opportunities where I can help people so I can live longer. But yeah, having moved countries recently and I was pregnant and I had a miscarriage, I just didn't really feel like having the energy to invest in community. And I could definitely feel that when this is a part of that lacks in my life, my happiness goes down. And I think I so much believe in happiness and feeling in flow being correlated to how my body physically feel in terms of injuries and sickness. And so I try to have these things harmoniously. And I have my first spreadsheet, which I told you about, but I have also another one, which actually goes on all these different aspects. And more or less once a month, I do a recap of my month on like my romantic relationship, my household, my community, my work, and how I feel about that, like how I rate them 1 to 10. Why did I rate them like that? And what would a 10 look like, and what can I do to improve it? And very often I just don't have the time, energy, desire to work on them. But sometimes I'm like, oh, actually I should work on that better.
It's so socially advanced what you're describing, but it also reminds me of this venture capitalist who said that his marriage is one of his most important assets and that he wants to manage it just like he manages his other assets. And so as you are looking like reviewing things every month, so him and his wife have a life dinner every month, and in this life dinner they talk about three things. The first is, like how they're doing, what's going on in each other's lives, having a moment to kind of really acknowledge and listen and focus on that. And then talk about where it is they want to go in their respective goals and plans, and then how they can improve in their relationship. And so kind of a moment for feedback, or also a moment to say, I would like more of this in our life. Like, could be, I want to go on a vacation or whatever else. But I thought that was so fascinating because it's deliberate, just like you are deliberate. And I think that when you're deliberate, you have a more rich life because you are really including the things that really mean something to you, and you're going after them and you're curating them and cultivating them and nourishing them. And so I really love your spreadsheet. So you have now, so you mentioned 2 spreadsheets. Is there a third one, or you have 2 and that's it?
Yeah, I actually have more, but like I think the plus, minus, and next is the one that I really try to use on a daily basis, which again, like everything I don't do on a daily basis, but I think overall, over time, it really compounds and there's a lot there. There's another one on my relationship. So people who are like significant in my life, whether it's my family, my friends, and how I that's becoming a quite niche, but like characters or behaviors, overall behaviors, and then things that are important for certain of these people. So for one person, calling on the phone a lot would be important. For another person, it's not relevant. And then, so what is the importance of that specific behavior from myself? And then how I rate versus it. And then when there's a big disparity between how important it is and how I behave, I try to see, okay, maybe I can put an emphasis on changing that if I want to, because some of these relationships are really important for me, and I'm concerned or like panicking about, time passing by and me not putting enough energy in certain relationships. And so sometimes it just like it's like in my face. I'm like, okay, I want to do this more consciously because otherwise years will just pass and I wouldn't have given it the time and energy I wanted.
Your friends are lucky to have you. You're really trying to reach towards their love language is what I'm hearing, because everybody's got, their own love language. Some people like, talking, some people like acts of service, some people like gifts or whatever. And what you're describing is you've identified people you care about, and you're trying to figure out what their love language is and how they connect the best, and you want to meet them where they're at. And that's really nice.
I think that's
I
the
really
theory.
appreciate you taking...
Yeah, I think that's true. The practice is obviously I'm not perfect at all, but yes.
No worries. No one's perfect, but it's admirable to be trying what it is you're trying to do. And so I really appreciate you being so candid and generous in sharing that. And I look forward to seeing what new kind of tips and tricks you come up with in your healthy aging plan as it evolves over time. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Thanks, Lydia. Love it.
This series is meant to capture personal stories of individual healthy aging protocols and is for informational purposes only, and it does not constitute providing medical advice or professional services. Those seeking personal medical advice should consult with a licensed healthcare practitioner. If you're interested to follow more of Hélène's work, there are many ways to do so. You can find her on LinkedIn and on Instagram at Hélène_WildAI app, on Twitter at Hélène_wild_AI. You can hear her on her podcast called the Wild Performance Podcast, and of course her company wild.ai, and you can find the app on both the Apple Store and the Google Play Store.